in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today's our topic is COVID returns, impact on National Education Policy 2020. But before I will go on the main topic, I would like to inform you that today the world is observing International Day for Biological Diversity. The International Day for Biological Diversity or World Biodiversity Day is a United Nations sanctioned international day for the promotion of biodiversity issues. It is held on May 22nd every year. From its creation by the Second Committee of the UN General Assembly in 1993 until 2000, it was held on December 29th. To celebrate the day, the Convention on Biological Diversity went into effect. On December 2000, the date was shifted to commemorate the adoption of the convention on May 22nd, 1992 at the Rio Earth Summit, and partly to avoid the many other holidays that occur in late December. Biodiversity is the living fabric of our planet. UNESCO states that it underpins human well-being in the present and in the future, and its rapid decline threatens nature and people alike. To reverse this decline, it is important for people to take their roles, actions, and relationships with biodiversity seriously. Media conference with Lal Goel wish you on this International Day for Biological Diversity. Now coming to our main topic, that is COVID returns, impact on National Education Policy 2020. The National Education Policy 2020 NEP introduced on 31st July 2020. The National Education Policy 2020, which brings about several major reforms in education in India. Our Prime Minister Honorable Modi said that this reform would transform the lives of millions of Indians. The new policy proposes for the globalization of education from preschool level to secondary level, along with a 100% gross enrollment ratio GER in school education till 2030, and further raise GER in higher education to up to 50% by 2025. The education policy intends to raise the higher education gross enrollment ratio, including vocational education, from 26.3% in 2018 to 50% by 2035, and objects to include 3.5% crores new seats to higher education institutions. The 10+2 structure of the school curriculum shall be changed into 5+3+3+4 curricular structure corresponding to ages 3 to 8, 8 to 11, 11 to 14, and 14 to 18 years respectively. It will comprise of 12 years of school education and 3 years of nursery and preschooling education. Affiliations of colleges to be phased out in 15 years, and a stage-wise mechanism is to be established for granting graded and autonomy to colleges. Processes such as online courses and digital sources, research funding, improved student services, etc., credit-based appreciation of MOOCs shall be undertaken to ensure distance learning is in parity with the highest quality physical study program. The globalization of education to be assisted with the help of both institutional collaborations and student and faculty mobility, and allowing entry of top-ranked universities to open campuses in India. The NEP recommends the establishment of an institution for the preservation and translation of various cultural languages in India, namely the Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation IITI and the National Institute for Pali, Persian, and Prakriti, for the strengthening of languages like Sanskrit and all languages departments in HEI, and making the use of mother tongue or local languages as a medium of instruction in more HEI programs. School complexes to be used for adult education courses after school hours. More focus on vocational studies in school level. NIOS to develop high quality modules for Indian Sign Language. Preschool section in Kendriya Vidyalayas. NCC wings in secondary and higher secondary schools under Ministry of Defense. Free boarding facilities in JNV. Dedicated unit for digital and online learning. Minimum qualification for teaching 4 years integrated B.Ed degree. HECI, common regulatory body for entire higher education sector to get 6% of GDP. Earlier, it was 1.7%. Bagless days encouraged. 3 languages learned by children will be the choice of state, region, and students. Medium of instructions will be the local. No hard separation of streams for experiential learning in all stages. Content will focus on idea, application, problem solving. Curriculum content to be reduced. All higher education institutes to become multidisciplinary institutions. One large multidisciplinary institution in or near every district by 2030. Undergraduate degree courses to have multiple exit options. Academic banks to store credits. Best universities to set up campuses in other countries. National Committee for Integration of Vocation Education, Lok Vidya. National Research Foundation, NRF, to be established. Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation, IITI, proposed. E-content in regional languages. Financial autonomy to be given to 45,000 affiliated colleges. Importance of board exam to be reduced. Exam can be conducted twice a year. NTA to offer common entrance exam. Tech-based option for adult learning through apps, TV channels, etc. The National Education Policy 2020 may provide a runway for the education sector to take off despite challenges posed on account of the pandemic. Announcement of the NEP attracted criticism from the industry experts, but it may place India on the global map for sought-after educational heaven of the world. The National Education Policy 2020 replaces the old education policy, which was framed in 1986 and ushering in an era of new educational reforms. This is the first policy that seeks to unshackle students from the tyranny of administrative constraints with multiple choices, multidisciplinary learning, and multiple chances. Given that there are around 350 million Indians today in school-going or college-going age groups, the NEP calls for a large-scale implementation of a magnitude never before attempted anywhere in the world. The National Education Policy 2020 intends to bring 2 crore children who are currently not in schools back into the school system. This certainly requires a substantial amount of investment in classrooms and campuses. Prime Minister Honorable Mr. Narendra Modi said the new national education policy focuses on how to think, while the education system till now in the country emphasizes on what to think. Although we have heard this time and again, it is worth reiterating that we have been in the midst of a global pandemic for several months, one whose end is nowhere in sight and one which is likely to lead to far-reaching transformations that are difficult to foresee or predict. Its impact on economies, societies, polities is at present perhaps incalculable. Within India, we have witnessed unprecedented migration of people in enormous distress, loss of employment on a scale that has not been witnessed in decades, and an overall dislocation whose impact we are yet to fathom. Surely an education policy that is meant to last for 20 years needs to take these concerns on board urgently. While there has been an ongoing discussion and debate on the provisions of which are likely to be implemented almost immediately, some of the most pressing questions we are faced with at present will probably remain unaddressed. We rely on interim global studies conducted by the United Nations as well as on the grim employment scenario in India to open up some dimensions of the complex context within which the implementation of the new national education policy is being envisaged. Currently, it is estimated that the COVID-19 pandemic has created the largest disruption of education system in history, effectively nearly 1.6 billion learners in more than 190 countries and all continents. Closures of schools and other learning spaces have impacted 94% of the world students' population, up to 99% in low and lower middle income countries. The impact of the crisis will most severe for those living in poor or rural areas, girls, refugees, persons with disabilities, and forcibly displaced persons. some 23.8 million additional children and youth from pre-primary to tertiary may drop out or not have access to school next year due to the pandemic's economic impact alone. As parents who lose income make difficult choices, enrollment and girls' education rates may decline while child labor, recruitment, and exploitation rise. The issues of financing education highlighting the existence of massive pre-COVID-19 education funding gaps. For low-income countries and lower middle-income countries, for instance, that gap has reached a staggering 148 billion US dollar annually, and it could now increase by up to 1/3. This is a situation where the propensity to adopt short-term expedient financial measures, including privatization, is likely to be extremely strong. This will almost inevitably sharpen educational disparity, perhaps inadvertently for future generations. The immediate, sometimes knee-jerk response to the situation of educational deprivation has been to adopt online modes of communications. Relatively few countries are monitoring the effective reach and use of distance learning modalities. However, estimates indicates variable coverage. Distance learning in high-income countries covers about 80 to 85%, while this dropped to less than 50% in low-income countries. This shortfall can largely be attributed to the digital divide, with the disadvantaged having limited access to basic household services such as electricity, a lack of technology infrastructure, and low level of digital literacy among students, parents, and teachers. The technology alone cannot guarantee good learning outcomes. More important than training teachers in ICT skills is ensuring that they have the assessment and pedagogical skills. Now, when we are talking about COVID returns, we should understand the severity why we are talking about the COVID returns. Yesterday, on 21st May 2021, India registers 2,54,395 new cases of coronavirus, which has taken the country's cumulative tally past 2,62,85,000 cases. Yesterday, 4,143 lost their life. Thus, total death due to corona raised to 2,95,508. This is, again, I will remind you, it's an official figure. I will not vouch for it because the media report says that at least 5 to 10 times more people are dying, and the total death tally is 5 to 10 times more, which I will neither say that whether that is correct or this official figure is correct. According to health officials, India has administered 19 crores 18 lakh 79,503 vaccines doses across the country as of yesterday, that is 21st May 2021. That is all. For last 1 week, the average of vaccines is 18 lakhs only. So with this average, how we are going to reach the herd immunity, we don't know. And until that time, we will not reach the herd immunity. It's very, very difficult for opening the colleges and schools, because the new wave which is coming is, they say that it's going to be, the third phase will be affecting the children, and the second phase is affecting the youth. Now, coming to our main topic, COVID returns impact on national education policy 2020. Today, we have a very, very elite, educated, very qualified, I must say, experienced and very knowledgeable panel with us. I would like to invite my first guest, and he is Professor Dr. K. Sankaran. Professor Dr. K. Sankaran is the Director of Justice K.S. Hegde Institute of Management, NITTE. He is BTech Honors from IIT Kharagpur, PGDM from IIM Bangalore. He has done PhD from Kent State University, USA. He has several years of academic experience in India, US, UK, Middle East, and East Asia. He started his career with Tata's. He has several years of experience in management, consulting, and project management. Dr. Sankaran has widely published his article in highly rated international journals such as Strategic Management Journal and Journal of Marketing Management, and many others. Currently, he is researching in the area of higher education, governance, and andragogy. Welcome, Professor Dr. K. Sankaran, our show. Professor Dr. K. Sankaran, as you know very well, that last year on 31st July 2020, the government of India announced the National Education Policy 2020 with a totally with a very giving a hope that now everything will be changed because the policy in writing is really very, very good. But whether it can be implemented or not, the question was asked at that time also. But now with the second wave, which has come very severely to India, the colleges, schools are closed. Now, whether we are going to implement this education policy, when we are going to implement, nobody knows. So we would like to know from you the COVID returns impact on National Education Policy 2020. Professor Dr. K. Sankran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel, and hearty greetings to you and all the co-panelists, all friends here whom I have met several times earlier, online as well as offline. This is a stupendous subject, and I don't think I can ever hope to cover everything because there's so much uncertainty out there. In the time that is given to me, I'm going to just talk about the kind of changes that are taking place or likely to take place with whatever certainty or uncertainty we can talk about it is I'll briefly talk about that. And next I'm going to talk about what NEP promises and how we should be as citizens of this country. We should take this into our hands and use the NEP, according to me, as a directive principle, because there's a limit to which you can have everything written up as a constitution. It is not something to be just followed, but it is something to be enshrined in the character that we show as educators. Before I go further, I just want to tell the viewers here, I mean all my friends here, also the viewers, it's extremely difficult times, and personally too, I've had difficult times, not just with the family, but students, colleagues, and there is a complete relook at the way which we've been doing things. So the kind of thing that Mr. Goel talked about in terms of the difficulties, our teachers, my colleagues, all of us as educators, as well as students are facing. And what we see really is COVID has brought this despondency, a certain amount of despondency, a great deal of fear, a lot of lack of trust. Okay, everything is being questioned today. So this is a time to really go back to ourselves and ask ourselves, what are we doing? And I think the primary responsibility of an educator in a society as educators, as I talk about, thought keepers, you have thought keepers, power keepers, the people who rule, money keepers, the people who do business and so on. Now, as thought keepers, it's extremely important for us to really realize what's happening, because there's nothing that can happen unless we restore dignity in ourselves, in our colleagues, in the people that we meet on the street, and start trusting. So we have to go back to these fundamental, tenets of evolution, tenets of humanity. And that, I think, is being very, very sharply shown. Now, in this, there needs to be a certain self-forgetfulness, because if we become too absorbed with ourselves and think only about self and the people immediately around us and to save them, then we will be actually we'll be very beastly. I don't want to say even animal-like, we'll be really very beastly. We can be very, 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 very nasty. But it's an opportunity for us to reflect and go back to our own sense of humanity and work towards some common good, and out of which, not just in the long run, but in the short run also, we have advantage. Because I think right now the most important thing is to keep our mental balance, keep our sense of optimism about humanity, do our breathing exercise properly, no matter whether you call it yoga or whatever, but actually get our the prana properly, according to me. And if we get that, all these medicines will start working on us very, very effectively, according to me. This is the experience of people who have my colleague, my friends who have wisdom. Now, NEP promises. NEP came before the second wave. In fact, it was envisaged well before even the first wave, before the word COVID came into existence. And I've been a student of NEP, and I'm really happy, you call me for this, because NEP promises a great deal. Now, NEP cannot be too visionary in terms of it just writing, because it's about action. It's a policy document. It's not a philosophical document. But what I would say is that if you want to really take this into our hands as an educator, if I have to take this into my hands, I want to say 5 different things. Okay, it's not about just autonomy. Of course, there is autonomy, but what do I do with this autonomy? So I have to really move from rigidities to experimentation. Humanity grew not because we had professional expertise. Humanity grew because human beings decided to be experimental. The guy on the 4 legs, you know, I've written about the Lucy, the first person who stood on 2 legs. You know, this fossil fuel from a few million years, not million, few 100,000 years from Africa. Now, experimentation from 4 legs, she got onto 2 legs. I'm saying she because that's what we could find humanity, right? I mean, our archaeology. Similarly, discovery of fire, discovery of wheel, all these are based on experimentation. Now, we have to deeply question ourselves as educators whether we are doing that. Okay, so this, to me, NEP is about rigidities to experimentation, regulation to governance. Regulation is very easy. Whatever they tell me, I do it. I'm a passive regulation follower. And if something bad happens, I say, this is what I'm supposed to do. But governance is about adding that little zest to it and to say that what is the spirit behind this regulation and actually breaking the regulation when it's required and having a language to say why you did it. For that, we need to think. Language is not about one particular language. It's about humanity's ability to think. Nama, Rupa. The word comes before action, actually, or form. Okay, and this is said in the Bible also about the word. So whether you take Hinduism or whether it's Christianity, any tradition, whether you go to shamanic language, you know, I've become a student of world mythology. When I say mythology, I'm not talking about some cock and bull story. I'm talking about what really excites from within. That's humanities education. So regulation to governance. So governance means this is the right thing to do. Tell me why I should not do this. This regulation is here to help people. It is to help higher thinking. So we need to question. Okay. So NEP to me is about regulation to governance. Narrow to holistic. Many people have told me, not just one, not many, a couple of my very senior friends whom I love, one of them told me, Shankar, you're being too discursive. You know, and this happened to be a UK one Western person. Discursive means you are multi-dimensional, you are multidisciplinary. We are not allowed in our pedagogy. Mr. Goel talked about pedagogy. People are not supposed to be. You're supposed to have modules after modules after modules and then ask questions. I don't want to be critical here, but what I'm saying is it's a matter of thinking in an earth-centric fashion. Systems thinking. I'm a student of system thinking. I can go on for days talking about systems thinking. I won't do that. So there's something called multidisciplinary thinking where you don't do local optimization in the language of OR, but you do global optimization. All the selfishness we see today, all the suspicions we today is because we are not globally optimizing. These are things which philosophers have talked about, and they have seeped into some courses, but it has not been able to penetrate through some other subjects that are required for doing some immediate work. But that is not education. So education is being very topical, being absolutely decisive in one's action, but also keeping a mind that is really, really multidimensional and having this open mind. So there has to be a difference between mind and body, actually. Body has to be decisive, but we don't become cocky about it. Now, this goes against Descartesian Western philosophy. I don't want to get into that too much because we know. So rigid theoretical to contextual. Contextual means, it rings of dharma, the idea of being right at that point in time for you. That requires wisdom, that requires a certain way of asking questions. We are too reverential to power. And we expect our people below us, including students, to be reverential. Absolutely great recipe for disaster, according to me. We need to be horizontal and vertical. We need to be true to ourselves. Now, I'll just take 5 minutes. I think I'm coming very close to the time limit that's given to me. I think COVID is calling into question, separation of nations. Are nations that separate? We know what's happening. If something happens in Pakistan or Bangladesh, we know that's going to hit us very soon. So COVID is a great learning exercise for us. Despondency, alienation. Despite the best of thinkers being epidemiologists, they don't agree, right? They're honest to themselves. And perhaps that was not happening until now. So we are on the right path. What I'm saying is it's too important to follow the profession. Now we have reached a situation, the post-truth world is telling us all these views have a place on the table. So we are in a pretty, confused state. But I know this will bring some order together because there will be a lot of smart people out there. The earth is becoming more and more one. I think competition is being questioned today. Competition, colonization. Now, competition doesn't mean that you shouldn't be against competing with yourself. But I'm saying narrow competition at any cost, colonization, slavery, including, I might say, I'm not an economic student, but I think, grabbing FDI from somebody means that is going from somewhere else, it's coming. Any zero-sum gaming is problematic. And humanity is too smart. It can actually have lots and lots of positive gaming. Love is a positive sum game. Kindness is a positive sum game. The more kindness you have, the more it comes. So anything, all these factors which our forefathers in all continents, all cultures talked about are actually positive gaming stuff. But in our, the materialist philosophy, not about materialism, I think wanting something else. The science with physics and science being applied to social sciences is really problematic. Yeah. So we need to. So this ultra competition is creating a lot of problems because it's at any cost. So we don't have trust in pharmaceutical companies, for instance, and these are very smart people. So a lot of smartness is going out there, which is probably not viewed that way by a large amount of population out there. Common man. Trust. If you don't have trust, how can we have a society? So we are only able to see two kinds of relationships in the world. Either it has to be horizontal transactional market transaction or vertical power-based, I agree with you, you don't agree with me, therefore you are no good kind of vertical. There are other forms of what a great anthropologist talks about as socialities there. We need to really bring them together. And there are ways of doing it. And I think education is the prime motivator for doing these things. For that, the society has to really respect knowledge. It has to actually completely change. We have to completely change from being dispensers of knowledge to creators of wisdom. So I think we need to, so this NEP is really about this. And in our own little world of our own students, our own classroom, we have to bring these wisdom. And if everybody does it, there's something called self-order. There's an emergent property for systems which will bring about change. I think that is a change that I'm optimistic about. Despite such personal problem that we face, the problem that our own people are very close to us are facing today. So it's I'm really fond of this called post-truth. How can you have a post-truth world? But this really sums up the kind of despondency that we have today. Truth is only one, but we have defined truth as facts, and facts cannot be truth actually. So this very definition of truth as facts is creating the word post-truth, according to me. So humanity is at a transition today from primitive thinking to mythic thinking to mental thinking to post-mental thinking. A lot of philosophers have talked about, so we are at the cusp of going from the rational mental thinking to something else, where we start understanding what is morphogenic fields and what is quantum theory and so on. Physics also talks about these things. So we have to actually start thinking about these things and use the autonomy that's going to be provided to us to be genuinely autonomous and the individuated person. Carl Jung talks about individuated person. I only have to follow my conscience, but I'm open enough to be checking whether it's right or wrong. Constantly, I'm a learner throughout my life, including when I'm in my deathbed, towards the end of my life. That is the person that we need to create in the classroom, not a person who says yes to you too fast. So to me, it's a question of really having an ecology to think and discuss these things in the classroom, whether it's management or whether it's technology, whether it is humanities or whether it's literature. And institutions. Now, sort of such great discrediting of institutions, the UN, the WHO, everything is being questioned. Maybe these are all based on power of money and influence and not basically truth. That's what you're saying. So it's humanity's role, and part of that is also my subject, management. How do we create institutions that really, generate truth rather than power mongering and power grabbing and, giving favors to things? So how do we create this positive something? So to me, NEP is that. And if you can go back to humanity's past and take the best things from there, no matter where it's coming from, and also use science as a way to actually peer into, the, the fundamentals, the very fundamental building blocks of life. That's where science has succeeded. If you can actually do that, we will be well off. I think I have a call now. I need to go. Thank you. I would have loved to.
I just want a question to you, Dr.
Yes, sir.
Sankaran,
Yes,
before you
yes,
leave.
Yes, sir.
Do you think 6% of the GDP is sufficient for next 15 years? Although as of now, earlier it was 1.7, even this 2021 budget, it was only 2.3%. And we are talking of the NEP says very clearly that 6% of the GDP will be given every year for 15 years. But do you think even the 6% of GDP is sufficient to create such type of infrastructure and to implement the complete NEP?
Just to say quickly offhand, I think yes. I'll tell you why. Because money is not a problem. I have taught in universities and in educational institutions with just one shift. We don't need so much infrastructure. I have a very, very technical person, a very good friend of mine, who is doing really good work in pharmacy. He tells me what you're saying is true for science too. There is a great deal of infrastructure available out here. We are not using it. We know it. We don't use it properly. We are not using the human power. This is 80%, 20% is that. So I feel that humanities doesn't require anything. All we need to have an open environment, put a camera, get students to think big things, have teachers who leave aside their pettiness outside. I'm sure all of us get petty with our own, folks at home sometimes, keep all that outside, professionally come in here and become the grandest human being, become a Nelson Mandela, become a Mahatma Gandhi. That doesn't mean that we follow Mahatma Gandhi and become a chela to him, but to say this aspect of Mahatma Gandhi, this aspect of Nelson Mandela is something that I admire. Hey guys, tell me why I should change. I must be able to ask a first standard student. And I've realized the younger, the better they are. They understand these deep things better because they are no pretenses. So I think money is secondary. I think if you see United States also earlier, they didn't have any money. But they came out of this European, classical hierarchical thinking, the given by the regal kind of a thing, But they kept some of it for historical reasons and all that. So they came out and said, we're going to be completely different. So for a civilization like India, we need to completely break with this and say, let me have a student, 700 students in my class. But when it comes to assessment, I'm not going to be assessing like you, because I have another way to assess you. And they can assess each other. I'm looking at some classical ways of assessment that they look at it. They create paper. IIT Goa says their students are creating question papers and a lot of appreciation. So innovation can overcome all these problems. And I think most money, 90% of the money is going for buying BMW rather than auto rickshaw, which does the same thing. So I think money is not the problem. Attitude is the problem, and the thinking that money will solve the problem. So I, frankly, with due respect to all the people in Delhi and all these, I don't think budget is such a strategic document. It may be becoming a bit strategic. I'm a student of strategy. It's slightly turning out to be a bit strategic these days, according to me. So I don't think money is really the problem. The problem is our thinking that money will solve the problem, and hierarchical thinking. And hierarchical thinking at some point it becomes anti-truth. It becomes a lie. I'm convinced about our country on this.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sankaran. I know today you have to leave for an emergency, so please, thank you very much. And what you, although lots of questions are remained unanswered, but next time, whenever you will be there, definitely I'm going to ask. Otherwise, I will ask the other panel. What's thank you very much, Dr. Sankaran, for giving your views.
For me having me and letting me go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please pray for all of us. Please.
Yes, we always pray for everyone whosoever is in India or abroad, anywhere. We want that everyone should be healthy and they should all be happy. And we once again come out from this pandemic. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sankar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he is Dr. C.K. Manjunath. Dr. C.K. Manjunath is MS, MA, PhD. Dr. Manjunath is the Student Welfare Officer at Sri Madhava Vadiraj Institute of Technology and Management, Udupi. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. This one line sums up Dr. Manjunath's career of almost 2 decades. A PhD from MIT Boston, MS from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, author of a maths book by Pearson Publications, an ardent researcher and an academician par excellence. He has dedicated 19 years of his career to achieving academic excellence and establishing a firm foundation to better education. He has completed his graduation in Information Science and Life Sciences, Masters in English Literature, B.Ed, an online course in Documentation and Information Science, and a program on effective leadership in teaching, learning, and process training. Across his illustrious career, he has held academic and administrative positions in leading institutes, including Justice K.S. Hegde Institute of Management, Sahyadri College of Engineering and Management, Sadguru Public School, the Yenopaya School and Yenopaya PU College, Hanuman Group of Institutions, and Vidodaya Public School. Successfully hosting a science conclave where Nobel laureates and internationally acclaimed scientists were invited, serving as a guest faculty to a young minds and contributing to building the academic talent pool have been the hallmark of his career. Receiving various awards and accolades are a testament of his deep commitment to furthering research and delivering academic excellence. Notable among them are Young Scientist Award in 2003 and 2009 for outstanding work in IT relating to biomedicine, Best Teacher Award by Rotary and JC NGO, while serving as founder principal of Vidodaya Public School. He served as a national level paper setter for JEE and NEET, Chief Superintendent for 10th and 12th exams and entrance exams like JEE, AIPMT, and CTET of CBSE Board. Observer for 10th and 12th exams for National Institute of Open Schooling. Guest faculty MBA program for Manipal Institute of Management. Managed outreach programs, PGID programs, and literary wall club at Justice K.S. Hegde Institute of Management. An ardent researcher, he has authored and published articles and monthly periodicals. Served as editor for Pearson Publications, Universal Mathematics till grade 8, and Wiley Publications Physics textbook on electrostatics and wave motion for grade 12. Welcome, Professor Dr. C.K. Manjunath on our show. Now, Dr. C.K. Manjunath, you have heard what Professor Dr. Sankaran has spoken. Now, we know that the National Education Policy 2020 was was announced in July 2020, the 31st July. Although at that time, the policymakers were well aware about the impact of COVID-19, which was the first wave of 2020. And in spite of the warnings which were already there that the second wave is likely to come, but in spite of that, this particular policy was announced. Now, COVID has come back in a very, very big way. So COVID returns impact on National Education Policy 2020. Dr. C.K. Manjunath, please.
It was great to hear from Dr. Shankaran and to start the show today. To tell you frankly, as I have looked at NEP 2020, so this is an independent platform. Whether it is connected to the COVID or not, that's a second part that we need to discuss. See, this is something like it's a guideline set for the educationists to plan the practical teaching to each and every kid, whoever is situated in whichever the corner of the society. See, I would like to start my today's words with three questions. One, where is the life we have lost in living? Number two, where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Number three, where is the knowledge we have lost in information? In fact, if we answer these queries properly, the answer to this question, what you have asked, will come back. In fact, COVID has played a huge impact on all of us. And in the last 1.5 years, majority of the students have lost their real academic platforms. I can tell you a serious academic thought that was happening in the classrooms amongst the students, between the peer groups, between the teacher and student, all this has come to a standstill. Though we are doing it through virtual platforms, online teaching and all, but still the effectiveness of offline, we have lost it. So under such circumstances, if I look at NEP, which has a real word of, like the fundamental principle of the NEP was recognizing, identifying and fostering the unique capabilities of each student, which can be even done under this COVID situation. This is exactly what I look at. In fact, I was discussing on the other platform in some 2-3 days back, and somebody had asked me, how do we recope all this? So I had suggested, even I had put my words of message to the government also, saying that we should have 1 2-year bridge program now to come back with whatever we have lost over there. And according to me, if the fundamental literacy and numeracy is taken care, and which is the highest priority today, NEP will definitely come back to the planning status, whatever the guidelines they had set. Then lot of flexibility. See, this is one word which I always look at. All our educational policies has lot of flexibility. Only the thing is, we need to choose their right learning trajectories and program that in such a way that a proper path is set to the learners. Now, under this situation also, if these flexibility are brought in, and if there are no hard separations, see, hard separations, when I mean, see, many of the practical subjects today, we are dealing with it in a very theoretical manner. I think Dr. Shankaran also pointed out these things. Then the difference between curricular and co-curricular activities, if this is handled in a systematic manner, these separations, if it is taken care effectively, I feel COVID will not be a big hurdle for us. See, multidisciplinary aspects in the holistic education is one more area that needs to be tapped very systematically. Emphasis on conceptual learning, creativity and critical thinking, ethics and human constitutional values. These things, if it is taken up in a systematic manner, I don't think COVID is going to inhibit any of these plannings of the implementation of. My only request is we work on these. See, policies, as Dr. Shankaran said, it is very easy. I can go on any platform and give lectures for hours together in implementing of plans. But can these plans which are made for implementation, are they going to be implemented in a systematic manner? This is a question that needs to be asked by all of us. See, when we look at like last March 23rd, when there was a declaration saying that the whole country will be locked down for a few months, Nobody knew that a whole academic year will go off in this kind of situation. All of us are going to lose a huge important academic year. See, I can see at my engineering colleges, students have cleared 2 semesters now, writing the examination, sitting at home. Now, what is the impact that it is going to act upon to these aspects? Now, under these circumstances, if I want to look at NEP, again, a lot of questions come to us on these areas. But anyhow, thanks to the technology, we have extensive technology with us. We have good diversity with us. We have equity and inclusions with us. There is a lot of synergy in curriculum with us. So all these things exist. So taking all this into considerations, if the parameters are really set in a proper manner, NEP setting up into the next future education will not be that huge thing. Anyhow, government has set a plan by 2030 to achieve one stability and by 2040 to make it complete pragmatic. So taking all these things into consideration, what I would like to say here is light but tight regulatory framework. If that can be brought into our system of learning, I'm 100% sure that NEP can be strictly implemented, whether we go through the COVID situations or any other pandemics that come to us. That's what is my opinion, sir. Over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. C.K. Manjunath. And according to Dr. Manjunath, NEP is implementable, whether the COVID is there or not. Definitely, I'm going to ask the questions once I will come to that round. But thank you very much for giving your views. I would like to now go to our next guest, and he is Professor Dr. Omen Memon. Professor Dr. Omen is MBA, MPhil, PhD. Professor Dr. Omen Memon is the former Dean, Nepunya School of Management. He is the COO of Allen and Harvard Kochayam. Professor Dr. Omen has done his PhD in management from Utrecht University, Amsterdam, Netherlands. He is the visiting professor of Illinois University, USA, and University of Lund, Sweden. He is the resource person of Faculty Development Program, Trainer Management Consultant. He is having 42 years of experience in corporate and academics, 17 years in academics, and 25 years in teaching. His specialized area is spiritual intelligence in management. Welcome, Dr. Omen Memon on our show. Dr. Omen, although your net was not working, so you have not heard what Dr. Shankran has mentioned, but you have heard what Dr. C.K. Manjunath has mentioned. Now, my only worry is that this policy, which was released in the month of July 2020, 31st of July, at that time, the first wave of the first phase of the COVID-19 was already there, and unlocking has started. But because this NEP was decided and prepared before the COVID time, and which was delayed because of the COVID to be announced. Now, again, the second wave have come, and which is far more dangerous, fatal than the first wave. Now, in these circumstances, and the media report says the third wave is also going to come. Till now, many of the states have already under lockdown, so no schools, colleges are open. Somewhere online educations are on, somewhere even the online educations are also not on. In these circumstances, whether this NEP or the national education policy will be effectively implemented and when, because right now the condition is even the existing education policy, which was earlier from 1986, we have to adhere because the exams are not taking place. Many of the exams has not took place. The future of the students are still hanging. So we would like to know from you the COVID returns impact on the National Education Policy 2020. Professor Dr. Omen Memon, please.
In fact, when you look at the NEP, we were discussing it quite some time now. Before implementing, I think I myself have joined you for 3 or 4 platforms to discuss on the NEP and the pandemic situations. And before that, more than half a decade, we discussed on the national education policy. and framed out a policy and implemented it. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, I prefer to look at it as fortunately. Definitely, I underline that word. Fortunately, we could, because of these unfortunate situations, it is being slowed down. It is being slowed down. The paper, as the policy on the paper says so many things. There is no change that from 12 years you have to do your schooling, and from there 5 years, that is the conservative kind of learning. It is there. And for the last 2 years, our students are suffering a lot. They are totally out of the classrooms, out of the campus. And you just know, you have seen what kind of a plight I had to rejoin you just because of some technical issues. Some technical issues I couldn't rejoin you. If I somewhere or other I managed, I don't know how many phone calls I made here and there to fix up my my problem. If it is with somebody else, with the schools and college students, what would have been the plight of the parent? That is something we have to look into. Now, anyhow, let me come to the first part of the NEP. It is still remaining on papers, not started. Not even 5% of the NEP is implemented. I again state, fortunately, the world as such is getting reordered. It is getting re-engineered. The same thing, same word, same sentences I used previously also. It is getting reordered. I am still repeating it, getting reordered and re-engineered. So why don't we avail this opportunity of these negative factors? I consider this as an opportunity, as a positive factor to re-engineer our education system. Re-engineering in the sense, now look at the status of affair. Now the complete education is having 12th standard. The government is not or the CBSE board is not in a position to take a decision whether the result to be announced or not, examination to be conducted or not. Look at the universities. The universities are not in a position to conduct regular classes. Forget about the classes, the examination. I know there's certain universities in Kerala, for the last 2 years, they have not yet announced the results of the third sem and the fourth sem. First sem, forget about it. They have another 1.5 years. Forget about those things, but they have not yet announced. So don't you think that we have to reframe the structure of the entire system, the examination system, or rather the evaluation system of a student? By mugging up something and vomiting it on a paper, you got your degree, or you can clear your +2 classes. Do you want the same thing to be repeated for years and 8 years together? 17th century, you said in the initial stages, we do have an education policy which is not yet been corrected. We have not yet made any corrections. Even for the last so many centuries, the classrooms remain one and the same in theater mode. In theater mode, the classroom remains. Some of the people say, when the content is very high and pass this down to your kids, you are making the fish to climb the tree. Yes, you're making the fish to climb the tree. And why I'm trying to think in another way, in a very positive manner, why can't the fish climb the tree if a positive environment is created? Now the question is how to create a positive environment. Why do you want to conduct examination up to 10th standard? Or let the up to 7, minimum at least up to 7th standard, let them play around. Let the kids play around and learn things. 60% full of fun, 40% of syllabus or the curriculum. Deliver it in such a manner that they increase their interest to learn things, to new things, to research on things. 8 to 12th standard, again, no examination. Keep on giving them assignments based on certain syllabus. Let them work on it. Let them work on assignments and evaluating the assignments. Let us decide whether this student to be promoted or not. Not on the basis of an annual examination for which the parent, I again state, the parent and the ward sit together and slow on syllabus to learn back up the things. And finally, under strenuous stress, this poor kid will vomit it on a paper. We are looking for the grade, what grade you have qualified. Finally, somewhere or other, he comes out, he clears his matriculation or +2. He comes out and goes for a higher education. When it goes for the higher education, the student, student, wait, listen to his father. He has got different aptitude. His aptitude is totally different. His taste is totally different. But his parents' taste is something else. I have been asked to be away from the admission desk and the interview in my institution. In my institution, I'm telling you, I have been asked to be away from my admission desk. Why? I used to ask the students who come for admissions, go for a close interview, just to know the inner strength of the student. What exactly the attitude of the student? I keep on asking him questions. Normally the student sit with a tight lip. And I say, if you don't tell me, I'll not give you admission. Then slowly the students comes out and he says, my dad want me to do a commerce degree. My mom wants me to do a medical degree. Finally, you know what happened? When this is going on, my directors asked me, don't come to the admission desk. Okay. But this is the fact happening with everyone. This is where we have to rethink. That continuous chain is there. I know that I don't think the NEPs ever mentioned anything about this. The continuous chain of process. +2 up to 12 years you study continuously. Next year again you go for your higher studies. Again your PhD, like that you go. It's an automatic kind of process. You don't want to know what exactly the student, the kid want to do. Identify that. Why don't we think, this is the time to think, why don't we think of conducting an aptitude test on a national basis, and based on the score aimed by the students, why don't we decide their courses? Why don't we allocate admissions for them all over the country, irrespective of the state you are, because you are conducting an aptitude test. From the aptitude test, the scoring, you make gradings, and as per the gradings, you allot them for various courses across the country. Not in any students from Kerala can go down to Karnataka, any places in India. Let him do that. And why don't, then the question comes, the financial implication. Why don't the government support them when they do have a higher grades, as kind of scholarships, rather than giving UGC grants to the universities, and no fruitful research is taking place there. No upgradation is taking place there. One of the universities in Kerala has not updated the MBA syllabus for the last 15 years. Why the hell are you conducting a program like that? I'm sorry to use this word. For the last 15 years, one of the universities has not yet revised the syllabus. Don't you think that this is not the way? Do we have to pay grants for this kind of universities? We need not have to. So we need to go for autonomous institutions. Autonomous institutions admission on an aptitude base. Admissions to this autonomous institution on the base of an aptitude test. all across the country. Because of that, you are just ruling out the caste system in a way. Your cross-section, your cross-cultural system, cross-cultural pollination will be there. The South Indian, a Dravidian will be exposed to the North Indian culture, and the North Indian to the Dravidian culture, or South Indian culture. So the cross-cultural pollination will be there. So what kind of a thinking they will be having? What kind of a high kind of thinking they are going to have? They have to, again, when you deliver the subject, it is not the classroom lectures. The faculty must be in a position to guide them. In a position to guide them, go and find this it's a kind of assignment. Come back, evaluating the assignments depending on the subject, periodical evaluation, and not by examination. Periodical evaluations, you evaluate the student and award him a degree. That is, don't you think that should be the way? So making him, introducing him, showing the hose to the water, taking the hose to the water. This is the water. This is how you have to drink. Show him how to drink also. Let him drink if he can. If he fail to do, no way. No way. You cannot say do anything about it. Only thing you can show him, there is water. This is how you have to take it. And certain water it is salty, certain water it is fresh, and whichever one you take it. And don't you think that the education system is need to be like that? So I think this is a pandemic situation. This area now, this is the time to rethink about the entire education system. No examination. Why? I'm so sorry. So how many NRIs are there waiting for the board examination date to be announced or some decision to be made? They want to come back to their mother country or the mother state, and they want to settle down here just because of an examination. They are not in a position to move out from those places. And look at the results also. 98.9% percentage of pass result is there in Kerala for the matriculation for the last so many years. 98.9%. Why? Now, this year they decided to clear all the students, 100% result. What is going to be the quality of the students, such students? Again, CBSE 12th standard examination. They says that they want to go for a clear the entire students. On what basis they are going to evaluate? They say they be based on their performance in the class tests and terminal examination. They are going to evaluate. Is it the right way? It is not the right way. The right way, right from the beginning, you have to evaluate. Start with the plays. Let them play a lot. 60% of the time, let them play, spend on playing, interact, move, get gel with each other. Inhibitions to be get rid of. And 7th standard, 8th standard onwards, let them come with work on assignments, let them develop it. A 12th standard based on assignments, the class teacher, the subject teachers can decide whether this student can be qualified or not. Evaluations to be again 1 year gap. After 1 year, then only let him go for his higher education. This 1 year, let him go out, work, think what is his right, what is his area to be learned. Let him move around the country. See what India is. Look at what India is. This is what do we know. The other day, I contacted one of the professor from Kanpur. I asked her, Professor, Mrs. Mishra, what is happening in your campus? Sir, the campus is closed. Sir, the campus is closed. I said, what's happening there? 35,000 the population is in the campus, so we have closed the campus. They have been asked to go back to their home, and we are trying to impart online classes. So what is the attendance of the percentage of attendance of the classes? The percentage of attendance, I don't know, sir. When I don't find somebody, I call her or him, and he says, sir, Yeah, no, the actual reply was something else. She said, "Sir, where is the time? My poor boy is standing in a queue for oxygen, or standing in a queue to cremate his relative in a queue." So you're talking about online classes? Come on, sir. Sir, nobody is coming when I call. They say they are busy in hospital. This is the situation. And we are worried about the examinations. We are worried about the national education policy. No, sir. We do have much more small things to do. That's why I said this is the time. Relax back and think loudly. Voraciously you will think and say, this is not the system to be implemented. Make the fish to climb the tree, create the environment for them, and make them to climb the tree. Evaluate on the basis of the performance they done in the classroom, the research work they done in the classroom. NEP, National Education, has kept 55,000 crore rupees for research. How many qualitative or quantitative research publication has come out? We'll just have a look at it, sir. Not even a single pie has been spent from the research fund. 55,000 crore. And we were, I think Dr. Manjunath was talking about, I think Dr. Shankaran was talking about the percentage going to be added. That is 2030, it is going to be 15%. My goodness, how can it happen when there is an annual slash of 4% every year? Every year there is an annual slash of 4%. That is accumulated to 6% this year, 2021. Then how can we say, how can we claim that we are going for 30% growth? No, sir. This is all eye-washing business. We are just bluffing our students, ourselves, our parents, our faculty, creating a big world of fancy. You become a professor, UGC means your pay will be UGC scale. What is the outcome? What is the quality of the PhD? Minted. I again underline that word, minted these days. I know one of my, there was an article, there was a series in Malayalam Manorama about the minting of PhDs in Kerala. I'm so sorry to talk about my mother state. This is a fact. The same thing will be in other states also, there is no doubt about it. One of my friends to be very frank, from Karnataka, from Bangalore, called me one day and suggested, Professor Woman, why couldn't we start a research aiding, help center? I said, what do you mean by that? No, why don't you make some questionnaire for them? Why don't you make some questionnaire for them and help? Sir, you want to mean to say that we make the questionnaire, later you find the answer, you later go for the statistical analysis, and you make a thesis for it. Do you want to do that? I'm sorry, I'm not there for that. I said, then he contacted so many other people and we said, no, we don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Maybe you, if you want to do that. I told him like that. This is what happened. And again, I was talking about the series came in Malayalam Manorama daily. One of the dean of a university, a guide, had a set policy that his wife to be met. Any aspirant research scholar need to meet his wife first, and first in her kitchen, and give the bangles 3, 4, 5, I don't know. And then only he will sit and discuss about the guideship and the subject. This is what is happening in our country, sir. This is what is happening. I know so many such students, such faculties ask me, why don't you help us to frame some questions? Come on, yeah, it is your one. You frame the question and send to me. I will correct it and give it back to you. But you take the initiative for that. So you have to look at the quality of the research. Now they call that basic thing need is that for the UGC thing is that you need a PhD. So PhD is getting minted like anything. So many PhDs. So many PhDs are coming. You just look at the paper, daily paper now, what is happening every day. 3, 4 photographs will be there announcing that PhD awarded. What PhD? PhD awarded. What qualitative kind of PhD you have taken? What kind of a research you have? We have so many pharmaceutical industries and so many pharmaceutical colleges in this country. How many new patent drug has come out in this country? Hardly nil. Hardly nil. The vaccination, now we are running about the vaccination. What is happening? All of a sudden, yesterday, the government announced white fungus and black fungus. Amphiter, I think Amphiter, the medicine's name is Amphiter. I couldn't recollect. Five companies have been given the license to produce. On what basis? What is your research basis to give you a license for a production? And what is where is the proof that you have a white fungus? What is that? There maybe the Indian Medical Association may be studying more on that. But what is the research and the patent drugs the Indian pharmaceutical companies have brought to Indian market to so far? I still remember we do have around 18,500 companies, pharmaceutical companies in this country, and we don't have no patent drug except for Dr. Reddy's laboratories grouping and Dr. Leica laboratories, like a few laboratories. We don't have anything. We don't have any such products in this country. What a state of affairs! And we are promoting bee farm. Now we have started with the PharmD course, a 6-year program, doctorate program. And how many of our doctors prescribe dosage on the basis of your body weight? If you have a close look on the leaflets of any medicines, it says 1 milligram per kg body weight, also such and such a milligram of drug per kg. Poor fate of the patient, the doctor doesn't know how to calculate the doses because the pharmaceutical company has given you 500 milligram ampicillin, 500 milligram rifampicin, 500 milligram, 250 milligram, 125 milligram. It is easy for him to give it. Administering is also easy. So they take it. So what quality things we are doing here? That is why I said we have to go for research, trust for research and based on the aptitude and the attitude of the students, admissions to be made all over India basis, whether it is an autonomous college, where it's a self-financing college, or as a aided college, or as a government college, on the basis of the aptitude test, and to be supported with scholarship. I think I can make out from your smile, sir. My time is running out. Thank you, sir. I think I have talked a lot. I was getting a bit emotional also, because I am so, as an academician, I feel so sad and so bad about all the episodes happening in the country.
Thank you very much, Dr. Omen. And really, you have given your thoughts, which you feel that this is the right clear picture of the education system in India. And what Dr. Omen, I will not take much time. I will just highlight two things. First thing, he says that the examination should be every time. It's on aptitude, not the only examination once or twice, but whenever you are taking the examination, it should be in a proper way, not in the way what we are doing. Secondly, he has mentioned about the research. Yes, we all know what is the condition of research. I earlier also said that Indian contribution as a research is very, very low. And he mentioned about the pharmaceutical company. And he mentioned that the doctors are not giving the medicines as per the weight, body weight. Dr. Omen, I would like to tell you, as you all mentioned about the research, these all medicines been researched abroad. There, the body component or the structure of a human being is different than the Indians. They are having more proteins. They eat more proteins in the form of non-vegetarian, other things. Our country is vegetarian or less protein takers. So the component, even in India, we see the South Indian structure and the North Indian structure, the body component. So what medicines we are prescribing, we have no research on India. And like vaccination, if we see, We are just a bottling plant. We are just doing whatsoever the research has been taking place at the Oxford University, and the pharma company was AstraZeneca, and they have given to a person like we are doing the bottling plant of a Coke or Pepsi. So the standard of education in India, according to Dr. Omen, is pathetic. And if coming with this new education, national education policy, what we are going to do when we could not even clean out our own the existing infrastructure. And he mentioned about the corruption in and awarding the PhD. It's everywhere. I was also offered, why not you take a PhD? Many people call you as a doctor, but now I said no, until unless some university will take my test, I will not go for this. But how many are? You are rightly said now, earlier at our time, hardly one or two used to become the PhD and in a year. Now it is like it's a routine thing for all the universities. Thank you very much, Dr. Omen. Now I would like to ask Dr. C.K. Manjunath, you, according to you, it's a very good policy. Yes. Just tell me, as per the national education policy, every week 50 new schools are to be started. Do you think in this time, and it was released on 31st of July, they were not aware that the COVID time is going to be very, very difficult for 3 or 4 or 5 years till the time economy is not up to the mark? How you are going to start 50 schools every week? It means 50 for that 15 years, and you require at least 50 school principals. You require 200, 300 teachers. Just see the rural area today. How many teachers are going to the rural schools today in anywhere in the India, any rural village? And where is the money? Dr. Manjunath, please.
Sir, I would like to see, these are all some of the statements that need to be looked into. Because when policies were made, maybe they must have done a huge research on the kind of statistics that exist over there. As you know that today, the dropout rate from schooling to the secondary schooling is almost at the 30%. And from the secondary schooling to the graduation, UG and PG programs, it is much more higher. So probably taking this kind of statistics, they must have done, but I'm not a competent man to talk about how many schools are needed and how to do about it. My only thing is, my only request is needed. What I would like to put across here is, see, every child who comes onto the earth must be educated. See, if you go to even in Karnataka, if you go to districts like Bagalkot, Bijapur and all, children, they don't even cross 4th standard or 5th standard and they will be sent to the labor work. And take the same case in Tamil Nadu, take the same case in Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, it is much worse, like girls are not allowed to study even today. So these are all the situations that exist, because of which probably such statistics must have come out. But I feel every child must be educated. Every child must be taught, like as Professor Oman was stating out. See, every child must get a confidence of saying what I'm doing, is it right or wrong? See, this is the ability that should come into that kid. So for this, how many schools you open?
Oh, okay.
That
okay.
is
okay, thank you.
That is my version.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Manjunath. Now my question is to Dr. Omen. Dr. Omen, when we know this is the condition today, examination has not taken place, nobody knows when the colleges are going to reopen, when they will go sit for the JEE or NET, etc., etc. Why not declare this as a 0 year, wait for the things to be settled, so that the future of the students, because as you already said, the condition of the online education is so bad. What is going to happen if we will pass them, if we will take the exam and even we will clear these students, when they will come to go for the employer, the employer will say, no, you have come from the 2021 batch, oh, Corona year batch. Sorry, your education is not up to the standard of the pre-COVID era so why not declare a 0 year? Let it be like this only. No, they will be giving the education for the next year. Again, as you said, complete education with full zeal, and then let them appear for the examination. Those who clear the examination, they only should be passed. Otherwise, what is going to happen? The future of these students' employability will be in dark. What you say about this, Dr. Rahman?
I stand with you, Mr. Goel. This year to be declared as a 0 year. Nothing is going to happen. Nothing. There is in employment field or employment market, nobody is going to ask the question, because currently for the next 2 years, the employment opportunity is less than 5%. Is going to be less than 5%. That is going to happen because nobody is going to invest, because we don't have them. We don't have any money. We don't have money. So the GDP rate is so low. So forget about the getting an employment if you make it a 0 year. Rather than that, you're worried to be how to feed these boys and girls at least 2 square meals.
Yes.
The poverty.
Yes.
That is to be addressed right now. If the poverty is addressed, as Dr. Manjunath said, the child labor. Of course, I have been to that Bidar and Raichur, Bijapur, and I've been to Tirupur, I've been to Tangashi, those areas. Child labor is at its highest. In Rajasthan also, I've seen, personally, I have witnessed. Why to go all the way to Rajasthan? It is there in Mumbai itself, Mumbai city, Ulhasnagar itself, it is there. So why they are not sending them? Because they are not supported. And why certain people are sending Tamil Nadu? I think in Karnataka also, the government is giving a lunch. At least for the lunch, the students comes to the. Why don't they retain back in the campus, school campus? They will be retained back in the school campus if there is fun. It's all dark around them.
Okay.
So,
yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Omen. Last, very quick answer from Dr. Manjunath. Do you think this, as national education policy talks about the change of mindset of the teachers, do you think at the age of 55 or 50 plus, you can change the mindset of the teachers? Dr. Manjunath, please. Quick answer, please. Yes or no?
Possibility is there if your mind says, I'm ready for the change.
Okay. Thank you very much. I got your answer. Now my question to Dr. Omen, very quick answer. All higher education institute to become multidisciplinary institutions, is it practicable with this such type of COVID? But now, sorry.
Only thing, it is not practicable. Multidisciplinary is not practicable, but multicultural is practicable.
Okay. That's it.
Cross-cultural.
Okay.
Cross-cultural.
Yes.
That is practical. Otherwise, it is not. Multidisciplinary is not practical.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Nowhere in the world it has got like that.
Okay. Thank you very much. So today, viewers, you have seen that the National Education Policy 2020, although on papers, it is one of the best documents which has been come in at least the education center. But is it implementable even in the normal times? But now the condition is the COVID is there. Last year, 2020, 2021, we don't know what is going to happen to 2022. So why we are talking about the national education policy if we cannot even clean the image of clean the things which are required right now, and emphasis is basically the poverty, how to eradicate poverty, how to give the 2 square meals to the children. And if we will not, what is the impact? How we are going to implement this new National Education Policy 2020 in this pandemic time. Thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, News Gaon se Samvad Sarokar News, and it was also shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring to you everyday new topic. But as we have started from last 1 week, the program in evening with Hindi, today's our program in Hindi is Kal Aaj Aur Kal Lal Goel Ke Sang. And our chief guest is Mr. Pradeep Mathur, former leader of Congress Legislature Party, UP Assembly, Lucknow. So please tune in at the program at 4:30 p.m. today evening for Kal Aaj Aur Kal Lal Goel Ke Sang. Thank you very much, Dr. Omen Memon, Professor Dr. Omen Memon. Thank you very much, Dr. C.K. Manjunath. And thank you very much, Dr. K. Sankran, for joining us and enlightening us about the things which are required at least this time for the students, for the faculty, for the management, and even for the educators as well as the politicians to know whether this national education policy is going to be implemented soon or it will be in the back burner as earlier policies used to be. Thank you very much, all the viewers, for watching our show. Thank you very much.